The kick drum, the foundation in almost every genre of modern music. Hi, welcome to the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. In today's video, I'm going to go through some tips and tricks that I use when producing and mixing kick drums. Most importantly, layering kicks. Now, as I say in all my videos, there is no right or wrong, but hopefully there's something here that you can use to get that perfect kick in your tracks. So here we are in Studio One. Now, as I said in the beginning of the video, this is really going to be about the concept of layering kicks. Now, this will be when you take two or more kicks and layer them over the top of each other to create one big kick. Now, the advantages of that are that you can EQ and compress each different kick in different areas of the frequency spectrum. You can compress them in different ways to give them different shape and transients and sustain, but the idea is to create one big kick. Now, as a rule in my productions, I tend to use two kicks. I will have one kick which will take care of the low end, and I will have another kick that I call the character kick, which will give the kick its sound, but will also take care of the low mid-range upwards. Now, one of the issues that you can run into when you layer kicks over the top of each other is phase issues. Basically, without going into too much detail, that will be when the waveforms cancel each other out. When that happens, the kick drum will sound hollow and weak. Now, I tend to use my ears, and I would say, to me, there aren't any phasing issues here. But if you do have phasing issues, you will be able to tell. It just has this sort of weird hollow sound to it, where it doesn't sound solid. It will sound weak and kind of like it's recorded in a toilet, I guess is the best way to describe it. And ways that you can get around that if you do have that issue is there are plugins that you can use for phasing. You can flip the phase with these buttons here, or you can actually very slightly move the kick so that the waveforms are not cancelling each other out. Now, I really don't want to go into too much detail. There are a ton of videos on YouTube explaining phasing issues. What I will say is don't do anything by default. Don't flip the phase by default. Don't use plugins by default to change the phase. Use your ears. Decide whether the kick sounds how you want it to sound. I mean, sometimes phasing issues can actually make kick drums sound really cool. It's a creative decision. Use your ears, trust your ears, listen to the kicks together and decide whether it needs any treatment with regards to phasing issues. Now, the way I'm going to process this is going to be source dependent. And what I mean by that is the process which I'm going to use in this video is not going to be applicable every single time you layer kicks of each other. But what I hope is that you can take something from the techniques that I'm using and you can apply them in some way to the kicks that you layer of each other. So some of the tricks might work, some of them might not, is basically what I'm saying. So what I'm going to do here with the first kick, it sounds to me like it's going to need a little bit of surgical EQ. So I'm going to use the FabFilter Pro Q3. I'm going to take off some of the high end. Don't really need anything below 20 Hertz. Probably scoop out some information around about here, I think. And because this kick drum is taking care of the low end, I'm probably just going to maybe do a little bit of a boost round about 50, 55. And in my earphones, I can hear that that's just giving it a little bit of bottom end. What I may also do is add a transient shaper. And what I've done there is I've just reduced the attack a little bit, because the attack's going to be the second kick drum, and the sustain just a little bit as well, because it was just a little bit long for me. So you can hear what I've done there is I've really rounded the kick off, but it's got the girth and the low end that I want. That's without the Pro Q3. And you can hear what I've done with the Transient Designer there as well. So let's bring in the second kick. Now I'm playing them together. I'm thinking that I do actually want a little bit of the high end on the first kick. Yeah, that sounds better to me. And with the second kick, again, I'm going to use Pro Q3. Now, because I don't really want too much low-end information on this kick, I'm not going to go too high, but probably round about 60. Probably dip out a little bit of mud. Hear that boxiness that you have in there. And I'm guessing around about 5K. So really the kick that you're going to hear is kick number 2. That's the character kick. That's why I call it the character kick. Kick number 1 adds the girth and the bottom end. But I have left a little bit of click in the bottom end kick. Now, a little trick that I use quite often with the 2 kicks, if I just add a effects channel, this is just a habit that I do. I have my effects channels yellow all the time, just so I know they're effects channels. So right now, both these kicks are going into this effects channel. So I'm just going to take the volume down on that. And I use Waves RVox. The way I discovered this was I actually meant to put the Renaissance bass compressor onto a kick once, and I didn't. I put RVox on by mistake. I'm not exactly sure what RVox does. It's a compressor of some sort, but I found that in parallel compression, using it on kick drums, it really gives it this kind of I can't really explain. I'll show you. For me, what it does, it gives the kick some weight and some girth, but kind of in a real natural, like I've put it in a space, almost as if I've put it in a room, so it almost makes it acoustic. It gives it this real natural energy. It's quite subtle, and as you can see, it's parallel. So just really adjust the taste. But that's just a technique that you can use. Try out different compressors. You can have some real fun with it. But I love using parallel compression on kick drums. It gives you the ability to really just add things very, very slightly just to taste. So the next thing I would want to do is, obviously I've got these two kicks running together. I now have this effects channel running together, which actually I'm now going to send to the kicks bus. So I may need to adjust that slightly. What I would do now is I would compress them on the kicks bus. Now for kick compression, I tend to use something like the Distressor. It will be a compressor that does add a bit of character. I like compressors that break up a little bit, add a bit of saturation naturally. I could also add some saturation, but something like Distressor or Fatso, it has this real natural kind of saturation that it adds to kick drums and low end. So I'm going to use the Distressor from UAD. Now I want quite a long attack on it, a short release. I'm going to blend in some of the dry signal. Because I've blended the dry signal in, I can push it a little bit more. Again, it's using parallel compression basically. And to me, it just gives it a little bit more punch and it adds a little bit more weight and girth to it. Let's just bypass it. You can just hear a little bit more punch. And that's because with the attack, I'm letting the transient through, but with the very short release, it's grabbing it again very quickly, so it gives it a real punchy sound. I'm just going to try... Yeah, see, that's a bit too much. And that makes it a bit too knocky. So I'm just getting a little bit of saturation, a little bit of harmonic distortion. And then really just to finish up, I would probably use something like a Pultec just to add that real bottom end to it, just to give it that real full weight. Yeah, I'm going to use a Pultec. Probably just attenuate the top end a little bit. So that's with. And that's without. What I like about using the real low frequency on the Pultecs is it's a very broad stroke EQ, so it's not doing like a tight bell at 30 hertz. It's giving this nice rounded bottom end, and then using the Pultec trick which I'm probably sure you're all aware of. If not, there's a ton of videos about it. I'm pushing 30 hertz, but then I'm attenuating 30 hertz as well. But you're not exactly doing that. It's a bit difficult to explain. Like I said, there's a ton of videos about it, but it creates this tighter bell boost. It's the only way I can really think of describing it. I might try 60. No, I think I prefer 30. And just before I decide on that completely, I am just going to try another EQ. I love this EQ on kick drums. From Acoustica Audio. Yeah, I think I actually prefer the diamond. I do use this a lot on kick drums. The bottom end on it is just amazing. Yeah, I'm happy with that. So there you have it. Now, this video wasn't really about a definitive way to layer kicks. I really wanted to just get across to you how I layer kicks in my productions, depending on the kicks, depending on the song, and just really to show you different ways, different techniques that you can use when you layer kicks, what kind of things you come up against, and really just to give you some ideas on whether you should use surgical EQ, color EQ, different compressors, whether you want to use clippers and limiters. But just have an open mind. Don't do anything by default. You can't take certain techniques from certain videos and books and apply them to every single situation. And that's what I really try and get across in my videos is I'm not showing you a definitive way of doing something. It's not gospel. It will just be some of the ways that I may do it in certain situations. And hopefully you can take something from that and apply those techniques in your productions and your mixes. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more mixing and mastering tutorials and reviews. This is the Crates Motel. My name's Conan. Until next time.